Imam Jihad Turk is the founding president of Bayan Claremont, an Islamic graduate school. Before stepping into this role, he served as the Imam and Director of Religious Affairs at the Islamic Center of Southern California, the oldest and largest mosque. He is in high demand as a national speaker on issues related to Islam, Muslims in America, Muslim reform movements, ethical leadership, and spirituality and identity formation of youth. Having been born to a Muslim Palestinian father and a Christian American mother in Phoenix, Arizona, President Turk spent his college years traveling, exploring his roots and Islamic tradition. He pursued Arabic and Islamic studies at the Islamic University of Medina and Farsi at the University of Tehran in Qom. He completed his BA in History and Arabic at the University of California, Berkeley, and his master's degree in Arabic and Islamic law and jurisprudence at the University of Texas, Austin. As co-founder of several Muslim Christian and Muslim Jewish organizations, Imam Turk is committed to building bridges across all faith communities. It is this tireless commitment that caused the Los Angeles Times to profile him on its front page, and that motivates NPR and other news outlets to invite him as a regular contributor. Most recently, the LA Business Journal recognized President Turk as one of the 500 most influential people in Los Angeles. Today, Claremont School of Theology is pleased to have the president of one of our closest partners speak to us, Imam Jihad Turk.
Being profiled by the LA Times is one of the few times I didn't mind being profiled. Some of you might ask why a Muslim with the name Jihad, is being asked to give the commencement speech at a Christian theological seminary. Those same folks might say that religion has always been used to divide people. It's a source of conflict. It leads to war and violence. Some folks might ask those questions, but not you. The graduating class, the 2017 graduating class of Claremont School of Theology, for it was the potential of reclaiming the power of religion to be a force for peacemaking and conflict resolution, for growing a culture of love and inclusion. It was these very things that drew you to pursue your education in this august institution. An institution at the cutting edge of interreligious education. An institution that offers such courses as radical compassion, interpreting conflict, healing, and reconciliation in the Old Testament, interreligious dialogue and leadership, Sunni-Shia relations and intra-faith issues, psycho-spiritual approaches to contemplative transformation, IFS as a spiritual path, religion, poverty, and inequity, womanist, pastoral theology, and spiritual care, Islam and the Black American, from slavery to hip-hop. Your brain on God, neuroscience and spiritual contemplative practices, and lastly, theology and spiritual practices for living with depression. You heard from my dear colleague and friend, President Kwan, a little bit about the story of Claremont School of Theology, established back in 1885, and how it transitioned through becoming an ecumenical institution to an interreligious institution. Today, I want to share with you, in the 45 minutes that I was allotted to speak, 4 to 5 minutes, the story from my vantage point, from the founder of the So as you heard, I'm an American kid from Arizona. My mom, who, by the way, is Methodist, is originally from Oklahoma. I heard a shout out, all right. A few Methodists in the house. And my father, who was from the Holy Land, he's Palestinian, born in Palestine in 1938, who immigrated to the United States, to California in 1956, where he met my mother, moved to Arizona, where I was born and raised. Now, growing up in a household that was interreligious from the get-go, and being raised in a state like Arizona, where there wasn't a lot of diversity, people just thought I had an exotic Mexican name, Jihad. When I was coming of age, it gave me an opportunity to search, to ask the big questions in life. And it was in that process that I began to look at Christianity and Islam seriously. Because I had met people, encountered people in my life who took religion seriously and transformed and manifested that faith that they had in their heart, transformed it and manifested in a way that was beautiful, that was caring, that was inclusive, that was an example to be, that inspired me. And so I thought maybe there's something to religion after all. And so I began looking at the two traditions in my household, which led me on a trip around the world to live and study abroad, learning Arabic and Farsi, living in such diverse places as Saudi Arabia and Iran. And I received a scholarship to study at the Islamic University in Medina 2 weeks after my freshman year, but 2 weeks after Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait in the run-up to the first Gulf War in 1990. And I remember telling my father when I said, what should I study in college? He said, it doesn't matter what you study. You're Palestinian, you're going to go into business. He wasn't much help, but when I told him I wanted to go and study in Medina right before the Gulf War, in the run-up to the Gulf War, everyone said, no, don't go. And I said, but this is something that is drawing me. I have to go and understand this religion, this tradition in its original language so I can access this rich tradition. So I was bullheaded and I went over there, and I was in the deserts of Arabia, and my cousins who were in the U.S. military were stationed in a nearby town, fighting on the behalf of the Allies. And I was asking myself, when I found something very beautiful in this religion, what do I ultimately want to do with my life? And it was at that point that I decided, in the context of war, that I wanted to come back and go into academia to become a professor of Islamic studies so that I could offer academic courses at the university level for the society at large, in hopes that having religious literacy can in some way preempt another war. Well, of course, there was a second Gulf War that occurred before I was able to complete my graduate studies. But while I was doing my graduate studies and serving as an imam at the mosque, I was approached by the president of this institution, as you heard, 8 years ago, and asked to give an invocation, which I did in the Arabic and then in translation, and it was so well received that the president at that time said, we're looking at a different trajectory for our institution to make Christianity more relevant, to grow and bring vibrancy back to this institution. We're looking to partner with an Islamic seminary. And he asked me for my help, and I said, well, that sounds like such an awesome vision. This is beautiful. The one problem, there doesn't exist an accredited Islamic seminary in the entirety of the United States, let alone here in Southern California for you to partner with. But we need one. We have about 3.3 million Muslims in the United States, over 2,500 mosques, but no accredited Islamic seminary to serve as a pipeline for the leaders. 93% of the imams in the United States were born, raised, and educated abroad. So we need, I told him, an institution that can produce leaders that get it, that are relevant to the youth, that are civically engaged and engaged in interfaith relations, that are inclusive of women. We need leaders that can better serve the diverse American Muslim community and help our community, 2/3 of which are immigrants, 1/4 of which are African American, integrate more effectively into this society. And so I said, I think we can create one to partner with, and with Claremont School of Theology, and he said, great, we'll help you out. We'll incubate you, we'll provide you that leg up, and we want you quickly to be an equal partner around the table so that we can do this not in a patronizing way, but in a way that is respectful of you being you and us being us, and finding that common ground upon which we can build a brighter future. So we began with 3 students with their first master's, an MA in religion, Islamic studies and leadership in 2011. This year we have 39 students, and we're expecting in the fall an additional 45 students. So we are growing by leaps and bounds. And I can tell you that an important part of the story of Bayan Claremont is Claremont School of Theology, and the fact that we are here integrated into a Christian seminary, and that we study alongside, and we have a partnership, a consortium with a Jewish seminary and a Buddhist university. It's appealing, it's attractive, because the people who want to go into this profession realize that in order for them to be relevant, they need, as we're less than 1% of the population, we need to stand in solidarity with one another. And we need to know and love and respect one another in the process. And I love Professor Najiba's coining of the term co-resistance. Beautiful. So, in these turbulent times, which maybe the president of CST had anticipated long ago, in these turbulent times, I can tell you that this kind of institution, the support that we receive here, means a tremendous amount to the Muslim American community and to the world abroad. President Kwan and I, a few years ago, had the opportunity to travel to the other side of the world, to Singapore, to Malaysia, where he was born, where he was raised as a Christian in a Muslim majority country. And a country that's 60% Muslim, 40% between Christian and Buddhist. You would think that they would have worked it out and figured out how to get along and do it well. But what was so striking to me, it was my first time in Malaysia, was how they were in awe of the close relationship that the two of us had. We even went to a Chinese Malaysian restaurant, and people were surprised that a Muslim would go to such a restaurant together with a Christian colleague. And so we have a lot of work to do in the world, and we can, I think what we're doing here at Claremont School of Theology can be a beacon, not just in struggling for the soul of this country, but for the world at large. When we first began, the president at that time, Jerry Campbell, shared with me a story that left a deep impact on me that I think exemplifies the kind of relationship that we have here today. He told me a story about a camping trip that he went on in New Zealand with 2 of his very close friends. And they had gone on a multi-day trip that led them through high mountains and across major rivers. And as they were returning, having depleted all of their resources, and at the very end of their trip, they needed to cross back across a river that had become swollen due to torrential rains. And that river was impassable. And they began to despair. There was no way that they could make it across the river. So they were running out of food. They didn't have many alternatives. And so they said, we're going to have to cross. And they looked at each other and they said, there might be one way that we can do it. If any one of us crosses that river, for sure we'll be swept downstream. But if we together link arms, the 3 of us, if one of us starts to slip, the other 2 can grab him. We can cross and forge that river, and that is exactly what they did. We are, my dear graduates, the families of the graduates and supporters, the faculty, the administrators here, we are in a situation where we have perilous times ahead of us, and the only way we're going to get through them is if we link arms and support one another as we make our steps considered in a considered and careful fashion. You know, I have to tell this story often as I'm recruiting students and raising funds for the institution. And telling the story of Claremont School of Theology and its relationship to Bayan, etc., is a story that is unique to both the right and the left. On the one hand, there's a sense that religion, on the right, I should say, there's a sense that religion is a force for division and being judgmental. And on the left, sometimes people feel religion is irrelevant. I remember speaking to a family in the west side of Los Angeles where we reside and telling this story in a very impassioned fashion about how our students as Muslims are studying with Jewish professors courses on rabbinic literature and courses with the Claremont School of Theology faculty on Christology. And I remember one of the individuals I was speaking to, one of the ladies, she said, "Wow, Christology, you guys study crystals? Cool." So we have a lot of educating to do across the spectrum, but I think our story is compelling. And one of the things that gives me hope, I knew the late boxer, Muhammad Ali. By coincidence, by chance, I was asked to be a signatory on his last will and testament. So I met him. He was such a generous heart and spirit. It was about 13 years ago. He already had advanced stage of Parkinson's disease, and so he was limited in what he could say, but he was not limited in conveying the love that he contained in his heart. He taught me some magic tricks. He was a fantastic individual. I met him and his wife, Lonnie. And so when last year, around this time, he passed away, I was reminded of his spirit, and I was thinking that there's a legacy there that reflects the spirit here at Claremont School of Theology. And so I reached out to his widow, Lonnie Ali. And she had remembered me, but we hadn't kept in touch. So I had to remind her of who I was and tell her the story of Claremont School of Theology and Bayan Claremont. And I planted a seed. I said, what do you think about these institutions carrying on the legacy of the champ? Would you be willing to gift us the use of his name to start a scholarship fund that would go to support those working in underserved communities, people to help imams, African American imams, people of color who are most deserving of such an education and would benefit tremendously themselves and their communities by such an education? What do you think? So she consulted with the family, the Ali Center in Louisville, Kentucky, and after a couple of months, she came back with the great news that she is gifting to Bayan Claremont the name of Muhammad Ali, and we launched in March the Muhammad Ali Scholarship Fund, and we're looking to support 20 leaders, up-and-coming leaders from across the United States. So it's very encouraging when there's resonance with the story of Claremont School of Theology, and people get it. People really do get it. You know, religion is a collection of stories and parables that highlight values and truths. Religion, when done right, helps us not only make sense of this world, but provides us with the inspiration to rise above our own idiosyncrasies, to go beyond our comfort zones, and most importantly, to endure trials and tribulations, the trials and tribulations of life. Religion, first and foremost, is a meaningful pathway for individuals to find inner peace and then band together to work collectively for the healing of the common soul of humanity, to heal the world, as is said in Hebrew, tikkun olam. As you go out into the world to walk with God and work for the people, I would like to leave you with a final thought. This is the moment for solidarity. Last summer, Linda Sarsour, one of the 4 organizers of the Women's March, the largest march, by the way, in U.S. history, came to the Claremont School of Theology campus to guest lecture at our Bayan Youth Leaders Institute. Her message of being unapologetic in her identity as an American Muslim, a feminist, a progressive, a Palestinian American, an environmental activist, and in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, her message resonated with the youth, with the students. Although she seamlessly manifested her intersectionality, fault lines do exist They are real. They are a potential pitfall in the road that lays ahead as you move into the world. As faculty, as administrators at CST and Bayan and our affiliated schools, our collective hope is that what you have gained through your education and experiences here will prepare you to identify the common ground upon which you can build a better tomorrow. As Malcolm X said, the problem facing our people here in America is bigger than all other personnel or organizational differences. Therefore, as leaders, we must stop worrying about the threat we seem to think we pose to each other's personal prestige and concentrate our united efforts towards solving the unending hurt that is being done daily to our people here. Everything in your life has brought you to this moment, and this is your moment. The world needs you now more than ever. The very soul of America, nay, the world is in the balance. Warfare, drone strikes, ultra-nationalist fascist movements. The world needs you now more than ever. The war on truth, facts, science, the environment, social, racial, and gender equality, the escalation of hate speech and hate crimes against marginalized communities, immigrants, the LGBTQAI community, Muslims, the black community, and other people of color. The world needs you now more than ever. Scripture teaches us that the response to enmity and hatred, however, is not more enmity and hatred. I'm going to go a little bit old school and give the King James Version here of the Bible. In Matthew 22:37 through 39, Jesus said unto them, Thou shalt love thy Lord, thy God, with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. The Quran similarly teaches, and I'll recite in the Arabic if you'll permit me, and then in translation, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. لا تستوي الحسنة ولا السيئة. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن. فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. Evil and good are not the same. Repel evil with goodness until the one who is like your worst enemy becomes like your closest and most intimate friend. It is love that has brought us together, and it is in love that we send you out into the world. And congratulations, and may God bless the class of 2017.